Welcome to a special Super Tuesday coverage with ABC 10 and ABC 10 Plus. We are streaming live right now. Good evening. I'm Laura Painter.
And I'm Chris Thomas. Thanks for joining us. The results are starting to come in as we speak. If we can, I want to take a look at what just came down. The AP saying Adam Schiff and Steve Garvey will advance to the November election. Tonight, we do have two political experts live in studio with us to just kind of talk about some of these results. Nathan Berenkin is former chief of staff to then Senator Kamala Harris.
And Tamika Hamilton, a former U.S. Air Force sergeant who challenged Congressman John Garamendi in 2020 and in 2022. Welcome both. Thanks for joining us again. So the last time we spoke, we were just starting to get some results in, and now we're starting to see even more so some initial thoughts on the U.S. Senate race. Tamika.
Yeah, I think that with the Republican and Democrat primary, advancing to the general election, I think there's going to be some excitement on the Republican side, to raise money and to possibly get more people coming out to California to see him advance in the general election.
And your response, Nathan?
Well, I think this is a credit to the strategic thinking of Adam Schiff and his team in securing, if he gets to face Steve Garvey in November, this seat is Adam Schiff's.
Speaking of which, Steve Garvey is speaking right now live. Let's take a listen.
When I say I will bring common sense and compassion to Washington, I'm only thinking about you, the people. We, the people, will tell Washington what we want, and you'll use my voice. When I get to the Senate, I'll always put you people before party politics. And I'll go to D.C. to build a consensus. And you know what it's time for? It's time for political courage. And that political courage is to stand up for your life, your quality of life, for your families, for your children, for grandparents. And when I get back to Washington, that first day, we'll start going to all 99 senators, reaching out my hand, and asking them to work with me for the best interest of the people of these United States. And as the great Abraham Lincoln said, when someone is right, I will stand with them. And when they are wrong, I will move away from them. In closing, I say that tomorrow is the first day of the rest of this campaign. And the days after that will be challenging. But I feel as excited, as confident, as optimistic as that young boy back in September 1st of 1969, who was called up to the Dodgers, went to the clubhouse, and put a Dodger uniform for the first time, and my dreams came true. I stepped into the batter's box at the Cathedral of Baseball, and I looked around. And I looked up, I said, thank you, God. Hard work and dedication do make your dreams come true. They say in the general election that we're going to strike out. You know what that's from? That's from the crowd that believes in the status quo. Well, Ronald Reagan said that's Latin for the mess we're in. Well, know this. It ain't over till it's over. We've got to the starting line, and that quote you all know is true in baseball and it's true in politics. And my opponent has been advertising that he wants me. And he's mistaking kindness for weakness. Remember that old saying, be careful what you ask for? Well, he's like the pitcher that throws me 70-mile-an-hour fastballs and then watches me run around the bases. I can't thank you enough, all of you here tonight, throughout California and throughout this.
It ain't over till it's over. Republican Steve Garvey commenting tonight after the AP calls it, saying that Adam Schiff and Steve Garvey will advance to the November elections. We've got our team here analyzing these results. We also have Prop 1. This is the other big thing tonight, where we're looking at if voters will approve $6 billion to try and tackle mental health issues and homeless issues across the state of California. And there you see, still early, but we have about 53% of folks saying yes, 1.5 million votes for that so far. So let's get over to our Brandon Rittiman now, because he's standing at the big board to help us take a closer look at some of these numbers, Brandon.
Yeah, and particularly you were just talking about Prop 1. You can see a bit of an urban-rural divide on this question as you look at the map of where those yes and no votes are coming from. But this doesn't exactly tell the whole story. I really like this map system that we have, because I can actually turn on a heat mode right here, and you can see it's showing you just how far in the yes or no those different counties are. And when I turn that on, you can see that it's a lot closer to even than meets the eye without that heat map. And really, I think what's happening here is there's a lot of voter confusion around Prop 1. We've taken pains over the last few weeks to explain exactly what it is. But it's hard for people to make up their minds about it, because it is additional money for mental health, but it's also additional money that doesn't exactly have a plan for spending that money, a concrete one. It just says it'll build more facilities for mental health, but not a list of where those facilities are going to be, nor does it have a plan to pay for all of it. So this is really an issue. It's an unfunded mandate, really, for the legislature to come up with, I think, about $300 million or so a year for 30 years to pay back the $6 billion in bonds. So anyhow, you can see just how close that is. I want to take out of this for a second. We've been talking about that Senate race, and here again, you can see a pretty interesting divide. I'll show you what that looks like on the heat map, but right along the coast is where Schiff is doing really well. Steve Garvey winning in traditionally Republican counties. Not perhaps too surprising there, but what we've talked about all night on the Republican side of the presidential race, I want you to take a look again where these purple areas are. If I show you the heat map here, this is where you can see the softness is. The same places that that Schiff is winning in this Senate race are the places where Donald Trump is softer. So if I click on a very light county, you can see here we're more like 58 to 36 instead of the statewide 75 to 21 that Donald Trump has been pulling. So if you're looking for sort of that antipathy among the California Republicans, that is where you can find it, is in those coastal areas. So nonetheless, Donald Trump handily walking away with California tonight. Not a terrible surprise there. And as we've been talking about, Joe Biden, who's an actual incumbent, doing even better. His heat map looks the same as the map.
Pretty even.
Brandon, we thank you so much for that analysis. Again, a big race tonight, as he's been talking about, is that race to fill the seat in the U.S. Senate.
ABC 10's Alicia Machado joins us live in studio with the latest big news tonight. Alicia.
Well, Chris and Laura, both ABC News and the Associated Press project Adam Schiff and Steve Garvey will move on to the general election in November. Schiff, the Democrat, has served 12 terms in the House of Representatives. He's a senior member of the House Judiciary Committee and is known for leading the first House impeachment inquiry into President Donald Trump. Steve Garvey, a Republican who you may know for his baseball career. He says his campaign focuses on public safety, education, and quality of life issues, as you heard him speak about just moments ago. We heard from his competitor, Adam Schiff, as he voted in Burbank this morning. Take a listen.
They're looking for someone in the Senate that will take on the big fights, will defend our democracy, but also knows how to get things done. Will deliver more affordable housing, more affordable child care.
Senate seat for California opened after the death of Democratic Senator Dianne Feinstein, who held the seat for the past 3 decades. Governor Gavin Newsom chose LaFonza Butler to fill the vacancy, but she is not seeking a full term. In these early totals, Schiff and Garvey are ahead of candidates Katie Porter and Barbara Lee. This is a race we will continue to keep an eye on as more votes are counted. Chris, Laura.
Alicia Machado live in studio for us tonight with that update. Thank you. Let's turn now to the race for mayor in Stockton. We can see right now Tom Patty leading in that race right there.
Yeah, it's something that we've been following throughout the evening. ABC 10's Gabriel Porras is live at Stockton City Hall. He's been following this race. What are you learning about this race tonight for us, Gabriel?
That's right. Still a lot of votes left to be counted, but we have a better picture now of who has the best chance at taking the mayor's office in the building here behind me. We just talked with the frontrunner, Tom Patty. He's leading with 34% of the vote, with 13.9% of votes counted. His mood was optimistic, but not surprised. He says he is sure that he will come in first or second place tonight and head to that runoff election in November.
I feel fantastic. I have an entire team, a lot of volunteers. They put in the extra effort, and a lot of supporters that we've worked hard to make sure that their voice is being heard.
Now, we talked to the candidate in second place earlier, Christina Fugazi. She is not holding a watch party tonight, but also said she was confident that she'll be the candidate going against Patty in just a few months. There are 4 other candidates in the running here. Dan Wright is in third place as of now with 19.31% of the vote, followed by Jesus Andrade and Jessica Velez, and then Shaquille Ahmad. As we get more updates here from Stockton, we'll be sure to pass them along to you here.
Our Gabriel Poor is live for us tonight. Gabriel, we thank you, sir. You know, the other place that's voting for mayor is Sacramento. We got to talk about those numbers. There you see them on your screen. Richard Pan leading with 25%. Steve Hansen at 24%. And this is really a close race. Just look at everybody just kind of huddled there together on your screen. Let's look at some of the other races that we have for us tonight. I know that we're also tracking some of the city council races, for example. Do we have District 4? Here's District 2 right now. There you see the results coming in. Here is District 4 with some of those results as they are coming in. We're finally starting to get some of the numbers coming in. And keep in mind, the city council race for District 4 is shaping up to be very interesting. They had a new challenger after the redistricting process.
That's right. And our Devin Truby joins us live from one of those campaign parties. Devin, tell us where you're at and what the vibe is like as these results start to come in.
Sure, Laura. We just left current city council member Katie Valenzuela's party a few minutes ago and have made our way down to challenger Phil Pluckybaum's party. And both candidates telling me they're feeling good about their races and confident they could get that seat. But take a listen to what Pluckybaum had to say a few minutes ago about claiming that early lead.
That's a pretty large lead. We'd never expected to see a lead that big.
We caught up with challenger Phil Pluckybaum at his campaign party and earlier today during one final round of canvassing. He wanted to run for city council, but it was the redistricting that put him up against Valenzuela. We asked him if he still feels the same as he did almost a year ago, that he's in this race because he wants a seat, not because he feels Valenzuela is doing a bad job.
My hope is that we can run positive campaigns and give the voters 2 good choices. I think we did that. We were reasonably successful in making sure that the messaging, at least that came directly from our campaigns, was good and positive.
However, current city council member Valenzuela feels differently.
The people supporting my opponent really went out of their way to spend a lot of money to mislead my district about my record, about what I've done with my time, about how we've worked. And so we had to spend a lot of time working hard to overcome all that corporate money.
District 4 is comprised of parts of Midtown, downtown the WX corridor, and with the redistricting, now parts of East Sacramento, making homelessness a main issue. City Council member Katie Valenzuela feels the way to solve that issue is by having more safe state communities. The challenger, Phil Pluckybaum, wants to have a better partnership with public health. Chris, Laura.
Yeah, and we also want to point out, Devin, that Valenzuela also remarked tonight that she is the only candidate to not take corporate money. So Devin Truby live in the field for us tonight with those updates. Thank you. We want to get to some more results right now. This is Sacramento City Council District 6. We are seeing Eric Guerra with 70% of the vote right now, just under 3,000 votes coming in for him right there. And in second with 15%, we can go back. I just missed that name. But let's go on to this race right now if we can.
Yeah, this is Sacramento County Supervisor District 4 race. There you see on your screen some of the results. Remember, these are still early votes, folks, but this is giving you an idea of where things stand so far. We're also, of course, tracking the big Senate race, right? I mean, that is what a lot of folks have been talking about. This race, I'm told, even rivaled the presidential race when it comes to ad spending and things of that nature. So let's bring in our panelists again. When you first came in, Tamika, you said you would be surprised if the Republican ended up in the top 2.
Yes.
You still surprised?
I'm still surprised. I'm still surprised, but because I just thought that Katie Porter would pull through, to be honest. She's an incredible fundraiser, and she has an incredible name ID. And so I just thought that she would pull through. But we see that the voters want something different.
Okay. Okay, and then Nathan, here's the thing. As we look at this, you're pretty confident that you feel Democrats can take this in the general election. You heard, Garvey off the top saying it ain't over till it's over. What's your response?
Well, I guess I have three things on this. Okay. One is yes, if it's Adam Schiff versus Steve Garvey in the November general election, Adam Schiff will be the next U.S. Senator. And that is because California, I guarantee you, the presidential candidates are not going to campaign in California for November. So the top race that most voters are going to hear about is the Senate. And as I was watching Fox News earlier this week, I saw one of Adam Schiff's ads for Steve Garvey, hyping up the fact that he had voted for Donald Trump the last 2 times. I think those key factors are going to doom Steve Garvey for purposes of a one-on-one matchup with Adam Schiff.
And what do they have to do next?
Well, I think the next thing is they're going to take a long pause. For Adam Schiff, he's going to have to recharge his campaign
finances.
Because he has spent. I did not catch this. Maybe you guys did. You hear Steve Garvey actually say thank you to Adam Schiff for all the help that he provided?
Off the top there?
Off the top, no. Maybe it was later in his remarks.
Well, listen at you. Look at y'all. See, he's trying to be funny, right? But here's the deal. I understand Schiff is speaking. Let's take a listen to what he has to say.
So a little over a year ago, we kicked off this campaign, and I won't say it was without its bumps along the way. I seem to recall, although it's a little hazy, that within hours of our announcement, a certain Kevin McCarthy kicked me off the Intelligence Committee. Yeah, that was my reaction too. And then, at the urging and badgering of Donald Trump, Republicans censured me for holding him accountable. I viewed it that way. And then Trump would attack me after rally after rally. And I think all those things were basically what we would call Wednesday. But you had my back every step of the way. Every step of the way. You helped us build the biggest grassroots campaign for Senate in California history, and I cannot thank you enough. I want to thank, in particular, I want to thank my family. My wife Eve is here tonight. This is my wife Eve. I want to thank. I want to thank you all. Thank you all so much. We are so lucky to live in a democracy where we all have the right to protest. We are so lucky to live in that kind of democracy. And we want to make sure that we keep this kind of democracy. So you had a chance to meet my wonderful wife, Eve. Thank you. Thank you.
Well, here you see the protesters have interrupted his speech, Schiff's speech, saying ceasefire now, chanting ceasefire now, of course talking about the Israel-Hamas war. This has been a real flashpoint, especially for the Democratic Party. There you see the results, though. Adam Schiff leading so far. Steve Garvey, the Republican, in second. The AP saying that they will advance to November. Let's bring back in our panelists. And so here we have this, of course, will be a national conversation. We saw this also with the president, where people were voting uncommitted in one of the primaries, you know, to try and send a signal that, hey, we need to respond to what we're seeing with this war. What message do you think this sends on a night like tonight?
I think it's a reminder that this issue is something that is very important, obviously, in the Middle East. It's very important globally for our global political health, and it's really important here in the United States in the outcome of this election. And both candidates for President of the United States, and certainly any candidate for federal office, is going to have a good answer to this question. What troubles me about this, I guess, is two things. One is we did see an uncommitted vote in Michigan. They have a rich tradition of voting uncommitted in Michigan, and actually they put together this big campaign, but there was only 2% more that voted uncommitted against Biden than voted against Obama when he was running for re-election in 2012. I don't mean to diminish the cause. It is very, very real, as we're seeing right now, and Adam Schiff is certainly experiencing right now. But the other point is this. What is the difference between the two leading presidential contenders on the Israel-Gaza issue? Not a lot of daylight. So for those who are campaigning or shouting down Adam Schiff, or may do so with Jill Biden, Dr. Jill Biden, or the president himself, there aren't many other places for them to go.
Well, and Tamika, talk about that. Where is the GOP on this topic? I mean, we have seen a lot of back and forth protests all across the country. How do you think Trump is going to respond to this?
You know, that's a really good question. And right now, I really don't have the answer, to be honest with you. I think right now we're going to see a lot of people more or less skirt the issue until they have to really confront it, especially as we get, closer to November. I hope that at the end of the day, they listen to the protesters, they listen to the voters and their concerns. But right now, I have not seen a strong stance or solution from the GOP.
So this is an issue where maybe both of them are disadvantaged in some kind of a way in getting their message out and listening to the voters as well. So both parties can really step up their game. Where do you see that they need to, the Republican Party particularly?
At the end of the day, the Republican Party has so many issues when it comes to the social issues that people are facing right now in our country. And what they have to do is just be committed and drive the message home, regardless of what it may be. But right now, I just see when it comes to, for example, we talk about abortion, the economy, they, more or less blame everything on the Democrats versus actually having their own message for people to believe in. So.
Nathan, I thought you, as we were in commercial, you made a good point. You said you wonder, because I don't think it's a secret that Schiff wanted to try and pump up, Garvey so that he could go against a Republican in the general election. But you were saying you wonder if he did too good of a job.
Well, I was just looking at the results, and to your point that you've made repeatedly, wisely, it's very early. But the vote gap there were two questions about the U.S. Senate race on today's ballot. One was for the full 6-year term, starting next January. The other is to fill the balance of Senator Feinstein's remaining term between now and November, or maybe January. That vote's pretty close. There's only 100,000 votes separating Adam Schiff and Steve Garvey right now. Now, it's quite likely that Adam Schiff's going to expand that lead substantially, but he should hope that he didn't do too good of a job pumping up
for the short term, at least.
For the short term, because then that would have dramatic consequences in the U.S. Senate, because you would again have a 50-50 U.S. Senate split evenly between Republicans and Democrats, which would then make the Vice President, Kamala Harris, the deciding vote for the remainder of this year while they're trying to run for re-election.
And I know you were saying earlier that you are a data man, and looking ahead to November, well, this is something that you're very interested in here, and you've been bringing a lot of good data to the table here. As far as looking and the evolution of their campaigns into November, any predictions considering the image of the parties too that are also evolving? And you made some good points to make on that too, the different images of the parties as they evolve with the global issues and local issues.
It is so hard to say what those will be right now. Because Tamika, I don't know if you'll agree with me on this. It's like everything is such a foregone conclusion, it seems like, in this primary, about Biden ultimately being the Democratic nominee, Trump ultimately being the Republican nominee. We know there are going to be issues that are talked about: immigration, the border, abortion, a woman's right to choose, the economy, who's done more to help which segments of the economy or not. All of those things are going to be real. What is also, though, too early to tell, and how much it matters to people, is to the extent that they have distaste for either of these candidates, which level of distaste is more than the other side.
And who can get their voters, who can mobilize their voters? Because as we're seeing here in California, the turnout is expected to be quite low. I mean, we'll start to get a better idea of how that is in the coming days ahead. But as you're looking at what you're seeing today, what are some of your thoughts?
I think, because I love data too, just like Nathan, and I also love the finance part of it, because, you know, that fuels, the more money you raise, the more outreach. And I think that this will kind of catapult Mr. Garvey, you know, financially, and he could reach more people. I mean, at the end of the day, this Senate race might end up being, you know, our presidential, you know, would-be election, you know, and then also he would help bring up the ticket for other Republicans that are trying to get that top spot in November. So I think California is, again, going to be on the map, and it's going to be a high-profile state once again.
Across the nation, all eyes on California once again, and both of them have a lot of name cachet.
Yes.
Well, I was just going to say, how big a deal is, you know, the celebrity factor, right?
Oh,
you know, when you look at what we're dealing with here, you think about the governor, you know what I mean? You think about people Republicans who have been able to come into what is a normally Democratic space and actually do well. Do you think Steve Garvey is that guy?
It's not self-evident from the debates he participated in, but maybe there's a switch he can flip that will make him more like the governor. But he seems a little bit more subdued than that. One never knows. One never knows. I think it is tough. I mean, there is a very clear path for Republicans to reclaim control of the U.S. Senate. And it is actually a very easy path for them. This happens to be one of those classes where it's a very tough slate of U.S. Senate elections across the country for Democrats. And California is not part of that map.
I was about to say, California was not, at least originally, right?
Not part of that map. But I'm saying there will be other investment priorities that I think will be tough for Steve Garvey to overcome.
If money matters, but I don't know. I mean, he's got some money himself, you know what I mean? If he needed to, he could get in to try and fund his campaign. You were surprised. You see your guy is now stepping up. He's now heading to the general election. Do you think he can pull it off?
You know, anything can happen. Anything is possible. I mean,
you know, that is not a ringing endorsement coming from a Republican on the table.
She's still in shock. I'm still in shock. But here's the thing. No one thought that California would decide the congressional races. I mean, holding Congress, holding the House. No one thought that. You know, so with John Duarte and Kevin Kiley, they called those races. I mean, they called, you know, Republican taking control of the House. And so at the end of the day, I think anything is possible. It's going to be a hard battle. We're going to have, you know, some break right now because obviously they ran a hard race up until this point. And then the summer is going to be lagging because, you know, kids are going to be out of school, people are going to be preoccupied. But right after the summer, it's going to be busy, you know, for both campaigns. So, you know, I always encourage people on both sides of the aisle, please vote, please make your voice known so that at the end of the day, you have the representation that you deserve.
Yeah, we're starting to get those results. So I think that it's starting to get a little more appealing, a little more juicy as we're starting to see things not narrow down a little bit, right?
I just want to get a quick reaction to Prop 1, if there are any surprises there for you all. $6 billion for mental health here in California. The vote is yeses are winning as we speak. We've got like 40 seconds left. A quick 20 seconds for each of you all. What do you think?
If I'm on the yes side, I'm very happy with this situation right now. A lot of the strong supporters I would expect of Proposition 1, those votes have not yet been counted, are not reflected in these results. So I think there are
because your big population centers like LA and San Francisco.
Exactly, big population centers and people who are going to be inclined to support this measure. So we'll see.
Yeah, I am honestly a little bit disappointed because given the track record of, for example, big cities like San Francisco and Sacramento, and how poorly the money was spent and no audits on where things went, and honestly, things got progressively worse for homelessness. So I just didn't imagine that people would want to put forth another measure to spend more money, to be honest.
They want something to be done about
They want
these
something to
issues.
be done. They want reform.
Okay, well, we are out of time. Stick around, though, because the results are still coming in. We'll see you live on ABC 10 on the TV at 11 o'clock.